Welcome back to the Man That Can project. I'm excited. This is your third time or fourth time,
I
J-Boy?
think third of it just being us two, and then I was on a Teams one,
Panel. Yeah.
a panel, yeah, a while
Well,
back.
welcome back. It's been a while.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for
Your
having me.
moustache is really looking elite.
It's growing longer.
It definitely is. For everyone listening, Jesse O'Sullivan, we met in 2019. I think it was 2019,
Yeah,
6 years
2020, I
ago.
think it was. Yeah.
End of
Mm.
2019, started 2020. And you've been on a number of times since. You've been part of our academy and we've done some work together. And now you're just a really fine example of someone who's decided who they want to become and what life they want to build for themselves. And you're continuing to evolve and grow. And it's very inspiring to watch. I stumbled across a post that you put up maybe a month ago where you were talking about how you were going to give a keynote at the Australian Men's Health Gathering. And I was like, we need to get this legend on here talking about some of the things that you were going to be talking to industry experts and leaders about, because our listeners, men and the women, have men in their life that can be a part of the conversation that you were delivering for many people. So thanks for coming back on, brother.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
And so, just quickly before we dive in, how was it for you, obviously knowing the journey that you've been on and positioning yourself as an expert in the industry and on the topics, some of which we will discuss today, to be invited to speak at an industry event?
It was kind of like I don't know, it was extremely exciting when it came to fruition. Initially, it was just like a Hail Mary. I'll see if they'll accept it, and then yeah, when they accepted it, and they were like, oh yeah, you're on a Friday, and they kind of locked it in. And I was just like, oh shit, this is actually happening. This is sick. But the feeling of it was literally like I've built my knowledge and refined it to be very specific, and now it's like, well, what's the point of that knowledge if I can't share it? So yeah, it's just the excitement to be able to share that with the world.
Did you ever think, like 2020, you would be doing keynote talks and talks? Like, was that ever something, firstly, you wanted to do, and now along the way, was it something that you thought you would be doing?
Not exactly, no. So, I mean, definitely not when I was younger. So, I actually just put a post out yesterday talking about this, but I, in high school, just flat out refused to do presentations. Like, I'd rather fail than, well, I'd usually try and find a way to do it without a lot of people in the room. Just because, like, I would physically shake, my palms would be sweaty, I would literally, like, my heart would be beating in my chest, I'd be stuttering and splattering my words, and it was just not a great experience. And so it was like one of my biggest fears was public speaking. And then it led me to actually fail one of my first semesters at uni, because like I just wasn't able to deliver the content through that medium. And then it kind of like dawned on me that it's like, well, if this is a weakness, but like I knew I had the goal of making an impact in men's health. Like ever since I was probably like, I don't know, 19 or so, when I figured out that I wanted to make a solid impact in that area. I kind of realized that if I don't overcome this fear, then I'm not going to ever achieve that life's mission. So, yeah, being able to get onto this national stage and share this knowledge with people, it was, I would definitely say, the best presentation I've ever done in terms of my delivery, my confidence, and it's just because it's like my bread and butter. It's like it's the stuff I talk to my clients every day, and yeah, it was just really exciting.
What was the main takeaway that you wanted to leave the audience with on that day?
That well, movement is medicine is probably the backbone of it,
Yep.
because being an exercise physiologist, men's health coach, and kind of focusing in that space, like one of the key things that I've found is that during the times in my life that exercise is a priority, my health is like fucking way better, and not just mental
Yep.
health, but like physical health. My energy throughout the day, my motivation to get other things done, my clarity, my brain fog just disappears. Like that kind of stuff is all like benefited just from that one thing. So like yeah, movement as medicine is probably the main story.
It's such a powerful thing, and like motion creates emotion. And I know there's a stat from the University of South Australia, which was from a couple of years ago, but physical
Yeah.
activity can be 1.5 times more effective than counseling and medication for depression, which is
Yeah.
mind blowing because you have to go digging for that. Like to me, I've never walked away from a workout feeling crap. Like I felt tired. Don't get me wrong. I've been busted, but I've always walked away feeling empowered and been like that sense of satisfaction and achievement. But you've been, you've said, and I've seen you talk about it, but like strength training works like an anti-anxiety drug and cardio works like an antidepressant. Like, can you break it down for us, just for all the lads listening?
Well, particularly with men, is we're almost hardwired, like it's in our genes to move. Like, back in the day, we would go hunting and, sprint after wild animals and, have to wrestle them and all this kind of stuff and then carry big, heavy, game
Back, yeah.
back to this village or whatever it might be. So it's like we evolved to be very athletic and very active humans. And then as we've gone into this society, it's like, I've got a nice little office here and it's like I find myself sitting down a lot. And it's like, well, I'm an active person, but I need to make sure I still implement the activity aspects because like if I'm not, then when I'm sitting down doing my work, it's nowhere near as good. And the simple fact is that that's in our genes. That's the backbone to how we are motivated in the world. So that's where the strength component is more along the lines of building your self-efficacy, which is like your ability to believe in yourself and to do hard things, that you can actually do it. Because when you think about anxiety is the opposite. The anxiety is self-doubt. Anxiety is fear of failure. Anxiety is just not wanting to try in case you fail. So when you can strength train and you realize, that hard thing, that really heavy thing that I thought was too heavy to lift, I could lift that. It's like reinforcing that part of the brain. And then with the antidepressant side of things, with the aerobic aspect, there's a lot of studies to suggest it's more multifaceted. So one of the key things is blood flow. So when you're able to increase blood flow to your brain, it's able to deliver nutrients and remove the toxins and all that kind of stuff 10 times better than when you're completely, stationary or sedentary. So that's one of the components. And then the other component is usually aerobic activity, cardio, requires you to go outside and do something outside. Or it's almost like there's a rhythmic action. And I think I'm not 100% sure of the why in that space, but there's that proof that like even having terrain moving past, I can't really describe it very well, but it's like that movement of the terrain past our eyes is relaxing for the brain and allows us to be calm and it helps us regulate that nervous system of fight or flight or rest and digest. It helps us balance that out and fix that.
It's such an important point there, even looking at, as you said, from whether it's strength training or cardiovascular training, like the key thing, and you've tied it back into like doing hard things, but ultimately stressing the body, allowing the body to recover, and then allowing it to adapt so that we can become more efficient. And that, the mind and body are linked. They're one system. Even though people try to separate them, they both impact each other. And the crazy thing is that I'm sure you see as well with the clients that you work with, I see it a lot with the men that I work with, is they're just not strong in their body. And many of them see fitness as a luxury. It's like, I'll do that when, or once I get through this busy period in my life, I'll start exercising again. I'm like, no. You're looking at it completely wrong. This is the thing that affords you to be able to do that for a sustained period of time at a high level. And there's also more stats, what I have it written down here, that like 4 in 5 Australians don't meet the minimum exercise targets for the mental health benefits. Like 4 in 5. Yeah. That's freaking, like, it wouldn't be on the Gold Coast where you are because everyone's out getting fit, but most other places, it's just people aren't doing the things, and it might be because we don't know where to start, we don't feel comfortable, we don't have a sense of community, whatever they are. But if you think about what you've said, like movement is medicine, and we'll talk about sick care system soon because this sort of leads into that, is we need to start finding a way to, as you've done with your speaking even, you look at it and you go, if I really want to have the outcome that you wanted, you said, I need to overcome this and I need to educate and I need to put myself in the position to. The same goes for all the people who want longevity, want to have a great quality of life as they get older and they start reaping the fruits of their labor from their career, you need to start doing the work now.
100%. And even when we look at anyone that's successful, unless you win the bloody lotto, it's like you're going to be faced with stress. And the key component to exercise and movement is you actually increase your tolerance to stress. So I always forget the name of this part of the brain, but I've like looked into it, and it's a part of the brain that actually grows and gets bigger when you overcome hard things. So this then decreases your risk assessment, or not risk assessment, but like threat analysis. It decreases that alarm bell. And so like an individual that is probably most commonly known is David Goggins. And they scanned his brain, and this part of his brain is like the biggest of any human they've ever come across.
Wow.
So there's literally part of your brain that grows to deal with stress, to deal with like to increase your tolerance to stress.
So,
At the end of the day,
so you're saying resilience can be built?
100%. It's like a muscle, but it's in your brain. It's a component within your brain, and that's where in the talk I like being in a room full of practitioners. Like I wanted to share the parts of the brain and how they are impacted by exercise. And one of the key things is when we're super stressed or chronically stressed, even we lose our dopamine, right? So our ability to produce dopamine decreases. So for those who don't know, dopamine is like it's not the reward chemical, it's like the desire chemical. It's the thing that makes us want more, right? And it's what gives us reward for doing things. But when that's burnt out, all of a sudden we need to resort to cheaper, faster dopamine to feel the same excitement and motivation. So that's where a lot of blokes self-sabotage down that path of alcohol and drugs and women and whatever else. And it's because when you exercise, you're increasing that well, not tolerance, but increase the sensitivity to dopamine and the production of dopamine. And then
That's fascinating.
yeah, and it's like because it's actually earned, it's literally like it's more powerful that way than it is when if you do a line of cocaine, it floods your brain with dopamine really really quick, but then it crashes really, really quick, and then you're searching for that high again. But
You're racking up another line and going again.
Whereas the dopamine you get from these hard tasks, it's like a prolonged release for a lot longer, for literally hours after. And that's where even someone with ADHD, it's like, well, I love exercising in the morning because like I am medicated for ADHD, which is a form of speed, but I don't have to be reliant on that medication when I exercise in the morning. And that's like an insane aspect for me where it's like, well, I don't have to pump myself full of these medications when all I got to do is just move my body and get my heart rate up, and then I get all the benefit of that.
So when you're looking at the structure of programming for some, let's just say you're an individual, you're a high performing bloke, and you may not be training for anything specifically, whether it's bodybuilding or a Spartan race or a marathon or whatever it is, but you're just listening to what you're saying and you're like, Jesse, I want to stress myself more. I want the recovery and I want the adaptation. What would, like, I guess, obviously loosely put, it's different for everyone, but a good training structure look like? If we were to say, a 5-day training week, what would that roughly look like?
So, I mean, looking at that research paper that you suggested, I was actually looking through this before this podcast.
Oh, really? We're looking at the same one.
The exact same, because it's probably the most prominent study. Like, when you look at the quality of a study, this one's a meta-analysis review. So it's taken all the meta-analysis, which are reviews of all the other tests, so of all the random control trials. So it's a study of a study of studies, which is like
the ultimate study.
And of that, there's over like 1,000 different studies they've done, and across that is also, I think it was like 149,000 participants. So
it's a good data pile.
The data, it's not just looking at 10 people and exercising 10 people. 140,000 people is like insane. And that's across every age. Well, the average age was like, I think, like 24 all the way up to, I think it was about 86, but the average was 55. But regardless of that, back to your question, is the recommendations within this study, it looked at session frequency, duration, mode, all of those components. And what I would say is like, it's like the sweet spot in the middle. There's, if you do too much, it's like, there's a sweet dose.
Mm-hmm.
You want the minimum effective dose. If you go under, it's not effective. And therefore,
Yep.
so anything that was low intensity or low frequency, so only 1 or 2 days a week, wasn't really effective. Low intensity wasn't really effective. Anywhere near as much as high intensity and moderate intensity. So when you're looking at like the structure, you want to go for 4 to 5 days was the best outcome for both depression and anxiety, and then the total minutes throughout the week was around that 150 minutes, which has been the guidelines for fucking 20 years.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah. So, 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise. In terms of the mode, as I mentioned before, like different modes allow for different aspects, but really they were all effective, right? So even things like yoga and stretching, but then
that's
you don't
amazing.
get the intensity component.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what you do. It just matters how often you do it, and that's 4 to 5 times per week, and then accumulate a total of 150 minutes across the week. And so if you do that, then you're getting the best response from it.
Yeah. I think one of the great things about when we look at frequency as well is if you start making it something that you do 5 days a week, or even for me, I move 7 days a week in various different of intensity, but it becomes part of my identity. And the reason why I'm grateful that health and active, consciously and intentionally moving is it's a healthier version. I still consider myself an athlete, and because I consider myself an athlete, I make healthier movement choices, recovery choices, nutrition choices, which I believe in the long term. And even though I'm not a competitive athlete, but even in the long term, I think that mindset and that part of my identity is going to serve me in the future.
Yeah, 100%.
Beautiful. And I guess even for me, like I'm in between training for events. What I'm doing, just to give an example for people out there, is I'm currently doing 3 strength training sessions a week. One sort of zone 2, like essentially being able to go for a run, talking to a mate, like it's not intense. And then one 30-minute hit high intensity session at the gym as well. And that's what mine looks like at the moment. And it's covering all bases, and it's actually kicking my ass at the moment because I've only really been doing a lot of long runs for the last 2 years. So being back into strength, it's getting my nervous system pumped up, my brain, and then the high intensity. Holy crap! But it's so satisfying at the same time.
Yeah, the flood afterwards, the endorphins, that dopamine, they call it the runner's high, but you can get it from anything. And it's like that flood of all those neurotransmitters, which when you're looking at depression and anxiety, those neurotransmitters are like completely burnt out. So you got low serotonin, low dopamine, and then there's also another thing that's released with strength training, which is really beneficial, particularly for anxiety and PTSD, is, I forget, it's like BNFD, so it's brain neurotropic factor something.
I've got to hear brain-derived neurotropic factor. Yeah, BDNF.
Yeah, BDNF, right? That's increased during strength training, and the benefit of that is that's what allows us to create new neural pathways. So oftentimes, like, people will talk about like, their first thought or their first reaction is negative, and that's like a neural pathway that's ingrained in our brains because that used to protect us. Whereas, so if we heard a rustling in the bushes, it was easy, it was safer, and it would allow us to live longer to assume that was something bad. But in our life now, it's not anywhere near as effective. But the more we allow that kind of thought process to lead and control our life, the more that neural pathway gets like solidified. But this BDNF stuff, it allows us to lay new pathways. Positive thoughts. Then that's that self-efficacy. That's I can do this. I can believe in myself, and I'm capable. And I think that's what motivates any man, is like, we want to feel capable.
100%, dude. So good. And I hadn't looked into that too much until obviously you sent me some key points around your talk, and I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. So that was fascinating for me because I'm always thinking about boosting mood. Like, I was chatting with a bloke yesterday that's potentially going to do some work with me. And his life's amazing, like doing really well from a career standpoint, super healthy, all of that sort of stuff. But he's like, when I jump out of bed, like I just don't feel energized. I feel flat. And I was like, as we're digging into it, I'm like, what's your eating like? He's like, yeah, I eat really well. And what it boiled down to for him was the lack of strength training, which obviously, having read what you've shared with me, I was like, oh, there we go. There's a great link. But also not having purpose, like a solidified purpose outside of career, meaning we've built the career, but for what purpose did I build the career to that level? And why am I not doing the things that I thought it would provide me with after that? And that's where I get excited, because we get to put the spring in the step back in individuals by going, hey, for me, I'm always trying to get men strong in their body, calm in their mind, clear in their purpose, and confident in life. Like, very simple process, but I think you have to start with the body, because it's the path of least resistance.
Yeah. And
for most people anyway.
I mean, obviously you've got people who are clinically depressed and severely anxious and things like that. And that obviously that's when you need to see a psychologist, a professional to, sometimes that's where medication can help as almost see that medication as a gateway drug to exercise. Because it's like, once you get momentum with exercise, it's like the hardest thing to do is to start. Like, once you've started, like, if you can hold on to it, and as you said, it's like, it's a lot easier to make it a daily thing than a once or twice a week thing. It's like, it's the same for our sleep. It's far better for us to focus on our sleep 7 days a week than it is to only focus on it 5 days a week. And so, like, more frequently is always better when it comes to this, particularly a habit that you want to form rather than it just being a task.
That's a great way to put it. So I want to sort of move into, we mentioned sick care before, but the Australian healthcare system, aka a bit of sick care, as you've mentioned. What do you feel is broken, and what needs to change if we want real health, not symptom management?
Well, one of the key aspects of my presentation was that your mental health is your physical health. And the thing is like, if we wait until our physical health is terrible, and then all of a sudden that's when we go down the pathway of diagnosis. But even the diagnosis requires to see a specialist and all of these, like, lengthy wait times and all that kind of stuff, and it's really fucking expensive, right? So when you're looking at all of these things, it's like, well, preventative is like a 10 times value saver. So whether it's your time it's saving, or whether it's your energy, or whether it's your money. And so that's where, like, the issue with our healthcare is, like, one example I spoke to you about before the call was that like, if we get our bloods done, for starters, like, as a 28-year-old, and I went to my doctor and I said, hey, I want to get my bloods checked, and they'll be like, oh, why? And it's like, oh, I just want to see where I'm at. And he's like, well, no. Just straight up, no. You're young and you're healthy, you look fine, you got no complaints. And the issue with that is that, well, how do I know? Like, I could be low in testosterone, or I could be really high in inflammatory markers that, I don't have a physical illness or disability yet, but I don't want to wait until that moment when, I am clinically depressed, or I am clinically anxious, or, am more predisposed to whatever illnesses are out there, because I don't know where my health markers are at. So I've gone down, like, more of a private route for myself and my clients, and that's something that I'll recommend all my clients to do is get their bloods checked. And if you have to go down the private route, there's plenty of ways to do that as well.
Definitely, Matt, I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting how there's an age limit on it. Like, I've had a lot of clients getting them prostate screenings, because I'm the same as you, and I've got my data here, and I'll share some things with you from a blood work perspective. But even Whoop, it's only going to get better. But the fact that I've had a Whoop for like 5 or 6 years, there's 5 or 6 years worth of data that is only going to get better, that when I'm in my 40s and 50s, there'll be a baseline. So it will be more specific to me, the results that I'm getting in the future, or the blood work that I'm getting in the future, as opposed to the individual who has their first bit of blood work at 50 and they don't really have any, but they're just going off generic guidelines, not what's specific for them.
Exactly. And I mean, even when you asked me the question before about exercise, the answer to exercise or your blood markers, it depends. every individual, and this is one thing I found working across, I've probably worked with 100 blokes now, and it's like across all of them, it's different things that they need to work on. It's like you'll never see me post any kind of educational content around you should be doing this. The simple fact is that there's only a few things that you can generalize that are effective. One is move your body. Two is sleep enough. And then three, like eat enough protein. If you tick those three, like they're the generalized kind of blanket statements you can make. But then when it comes down to the type of exercise or the types of exercises or how many reps, how many sets, how much weight, like all of these things, it all depends. And it's the same for your blood markers if I get my bloods, actually I've taken my bloods every quarter for the last 4 or 5 years, like since I've been an exercise physiologist. And what I've noticed is during times when my training is consistent and frequent and I'm hitting PBs and all that kind of stuff, my testosterone goes up to like my free test is probably around like 600. Whereas when I take the foot off the pedal a bit with training or, I allow work to take over, that's when my testosterone correlates with a significant drop down to about 400.
Wow.
And it's like, when you're looking at those, and that's just my behavior that's different, let alone you add in nutrition, and like I don't drink alcohol, so it's not even like alcohol's contributing to it as well. So it's like little tiny behavioral changes can influence your testosterone before even having to worry about, replacement therapy and things like that. And as a bloke who's 28, like then I'm not going to go on testosterone replacement. I'm too young.
Yeah.
I don't want to be jabbing my ass.
Definitely not. But it's interesting, like we don't take into account age for a young business owner. If they get a coach or guidance, it's just like, well, know your numbers. Regardless of your age, they don't say, hey, you're young, you'll be able to sort of fumble your way through, and once you get to 40, then we'll start tracking your numbers. No, we do that instantly because we know that that's a benchmark to build from, and it gives you the feedback to make better decisions. And some of the things you said before, it's like you can make those blanket statements, but where it gets personalized is through trying things and getting feedback. And obviously the feedback takes time. And that's why, for example, you've said you've been doing your bloods for the last 5 years. Like that's so benefit every quarter, right? That's what, almost 20 different readings for your blood work, which is incredible data. And it's been giving you feedback to be able to modify behaviors, know what works well for you and what doesn't, rather than someone just saying, Jesse, I think you should do this, mate. And you're like, well, based off the data of my blood work when I'm testing these things, and this is why we should test and track things if they're important to you. If they're not, don't worry about it. That's too overwhelming. But if it's important for you to improve a specific thing, test and measure, baby.
I'll override that comment. And if you can't, if it's not a priority to you, get yourself a coach or someone that knows this shit so you're not overwhelmed by it. Like, that's the point of an exercise physiologist or a coach like yourself. It's like, I don't expect everyone to have all of the knowledge of being able to read their own bloods or being able to do the most precise program for themselves. Like, that's why I went to university. That's why we've got experience coaching people for years. And so it's like, if you are someone that's like, not sure where to go, not sure what your blood markers should be, or what you need to work on next in order to get that next level, that's why coaches exist.
100%. Definitely.
Yeah.
And this is another point, like I know how to program myself to run marathons, but I still pay a marathon coach to coach me purely because I'd rather focus on other things. I just want to get given the program, do the program, hopefully get a result.
Yeah.
Then give my attention to other things.
100%. And that's where it's like, you wouldn't go down the path of learning how to do surgery on yourself. Like
Fuck that.
Like, it's, why do we look at it like, obviously surgery, that's a really big thing, right? And that takes, decades of education and practice in it and experience. But so does understanding all the different connections of your body, from your nervous system to your hormones to your inflammation to your muscles to your joints, like all of these components that, you're not expected to know every aspect of this.
So for people listening who are thinking, and obviously what we would suggest is what you just said. If you don't feel like the next steps, go see someone like Jesse or like myself and get guidance, right? You use us to get fast-tracked, right? Get a wealth of information and knowledge in a shorter period of time. If people aren't wanting to do that or maybe aren't in a position to do that, what would be some next steps that they could take off this call to start making some improvements in their life?
Go and measure things. That's the starting point. So, and then listening to podcasts like this, like you're already preaching to the choir. Like these guys, they're already listening to podcasts to improve their knowledge and improve their health. So they're already on that page. It's not like we're speaking to people who are, singing a carton of beers every single day. I mean, it might be
I'm
you.
sure there's some people who do
Might
both.
be. Absolute weapons.
Yeah.
But yeah, go and get things measured. So whether it's your bloods or whether, you go and see how much weight you can lift, or tracking your body weight, or like there's so many different things that at the end of the day, like there's a saying, and it's what gets measured gets improved. And there's a reason that's such a prominent saying, and it's true. It's like when you're trying to save money, you don't not look at your bank account. You don't not look at, the things that are taking out of your account. You're not looking at, you don't not look at your income. So it's the same for if you want your bank balance to look better, you monitor it, you measure it, you see where the gaps are, and you try and improve it.
Love it. And what's your thoughts around like community also being an important tool? Like, what is the importance of community and brotherhood?
So, I mean, in the talk, I spoke about how there's like three components that contribute to a man's mental health, and there's biology, which we've kind of spoken quite a bit about. There's behavior, which is the exercise, the sleep, the recovery protocols, all of those kinds of things, and then there's the brotherhood. And the brotherhood, I just chose that because it was like biology, behavior, brotherhood, all the B's.
The three B's.
But it's easy to remember. And what I mean by brotherhoods, I'm not just talking about your mates or your actual brothers. I'm talking about your support network, your relationships, even your culture and your social economic background. All of these components contribute to your mental health. So if you're just looking at the behavior component, you're not going to improve your mental health. If you just look at the biology, you're not going to improve your health. If you just look at the support network, I mean, that would actually probably have quite a significant impact on your mental health, but nowhere near as much as if you focus on all of them. So yeah, that brotherhood component. And I mean, the examples I used in the talk, I'll pull it up. Where is it?
Because I think it's like 1 in 3 men report feeling lonely. And because I was reading a study maybe 3 weeks ago, I was very interested in it. But like the risk of feeling lonely for those men, whether it's 1 in 3, 1 in 4, it's the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Like that's pretty impactful. Like that's a lot of durries. I haven't smoked for about a decade, but geez, you're going to be waking up with a sore throat. And, then the impact that has, not having a mate that you feel you can confide in, not having friends there to pull you out of a rut, because we all do go through seasons where we feel stuck and we feel like things aren't moving forward. And sometimes we can't get ourselves out of it. And sometimes we don't want to, don't take that step to ask for professional help. So that's where it's, as you said, having that brotherhood who can see, and they're like, Jesse or Lockie, you're not being your normal self. We notice that you're sort of starting to keep to yourself. Come for a game of golf, or come to the gym with me, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, so it's all about like building a network or building your circle with people who actually want the best for you. There's a lot of people, that you might have met in your life that, yeah, they're in your circle, but if there was a time when you're struggling, they're not reaching out. They're not going to provide you support. If anything, they might even get angry at you because, you're struggling and you're not who you used to be. And it's like, those are the types of people you want to actually kind of phase out and give less attention to. And you want to give attention to people who are actually going to lift you up, people that encourage you, people that are going to support healthy behaviors and not just get upset at you for, not being fun or not getting on the piss or whatever it might be. So it's about building that kind of, well, even, you've taught me this through the Man at Camp project, and something that I've implemented in Project Up is the aspect of community is so important, because you need to have like a shared outcome, like a shared direction. If you've got a circle of mates and they're all going in different directions, particularly with health wise and even in business and all that kind of stuff, it's like, well, you become the average of whatever is in there, and therefore it's like not a very good trajectory.
Yep.
Whereas when you're around a bunch of people who they do invest time in their health. They do prioritize their health. They're like prioritizing their health over, late nights out, or prioritizing business over whatever else. It's like when you're, well, they say you are the average of 5 people you hang around. When those 5 people are successful and healthy, you become successful and you become healthy. Like it's extremely, extremely, like a lot of people don't realize the impact this actually has.
Definitely. It's that compound effect. Like if you're being, what you focus on grows. And if, as you said, the blokes, like I've never had more, I've learned more about all domains from great marriages to how to build wealth because of the people that I'm surrounded by because they're, building wealth through property. They're building wealth through X, Y, and Z, and I'm just getting to like go for a beer or go for a training session with them and hear what they're doing, and I'm like, interesting. Like that's an interesting perspective on that. And then sometimes they offer you to do things in that field that you wouldn't have normally got, and it helps you break into a different area. And it's no different to having mates who call you out for poor behavior in your marriage or poor conversations or negative self-talk or notice that you've been fucking lazy for the last month, that you haven't been at the gym, and they're like, come on, mate, let's go. And that just helps you progress at a much faster rate. And that's why it's so important to audit your relationships. You must
100%.
must reflect upon the value that the people that you're surrounding yourself with are bringing to your life. And also, how you want to be as a mate as well, making sure that you're uplifting, you're challenging people, and you're making their world better.
100%. And
What
like talking more on like a statistics side of things, you mentioned that, what was it, 1 in 3 men experience loneliness. So what I shared in the talk was there's this thing called the wartime mental health paradox. And so you'd think during wartime, and this is not just like World War One or World War Two, but every time there is a war, the country that is affected, their rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicide, all those kinds of things plummet drastically. Not because they're not being measured, but because when it's a matter of survival, it's like we default back to working as a community. We're working with one solid purpose. And so obviously I'm not encouraging war, but there's something to learn from that,
Yep.
which is the structure and the shared purpose. And that the camaraderie, the brotherhood, all, almost focusing on like staying alive and working together to stay alive. And that's literally how humans have evolved to be. So that it's a no-brainer why that has such a significant impact on our mental health.
it sounds, when you say it like that, it sounds really simple to make sense of. Obviously, the implementation of that is where it gets difficult. But if people can slow down enough to see, like, where is that in mind? Where am I? What's the common goal with the people that I'm surrounding myself with? How can they pick me up when I'm falling down, and vice versa? Like, so it's why men love sports, like, and people in general really gravitate to sports because there is a common goal. It's like, it doesn't matter whether you're on the pitch or you're part of the administration team or you're sweeping the sheds. You're all wanting to see the team do well, and your role is just as crucial as delivering it towards that.
100%. And I mean, this is the importance of any kind of community, whether it's whether you do run a business and you have employees, or it's your family, or it's anything. To have shared goals is probably like the most powerful aspect. But then also to practice on that. If you had a team but the team never met up, or the team never played, or the team never trained, you don't have a team. So there was another kind of statistic to look at, and that was it kind of explained why one of the reasons why mental health has like worsened over the years, and that it correlates quite well with the decline in religion as well. So as religion has declined, the studies across the consensus across individuals that are religious and practice. So it's not just whether they're religious or not, it's whether they are religious and practice. So whether they go to, whether it's a church or a mosque or whatever it is, whatever religion they're a part of, if they go to that community and they're a part of that community and they're practicing in that community, their rates of loneliness were like 10 times lower than those, even if they were religious but didn't practice. So that shows you once again that structure and the community, and a little bit more of the purpose and that kind of stuff as well, because obviously religion shares one, common teaching.
Yeah.
So that was one of the other components.
Highly powerful that. And when I moved to America, obviously religion is in your face a lot over there. And I also have noticed a lot of people that I have been friends with and or still am friends with and or follow on social media were turning to religion. And I was really interested in why that was happening. And then I stumbled across a podcast, and one of the things that the gentleman said was exactly what you just shared there. And I was like, yes, they may not agree with all of the things in religion, but it's giving them some black and white values to follow. There's a greater meaning, and it gives them a community to be part of that's bigger than themselves. And I, thought about that, and I was like, that makes sense because a lot of people are lacking that in their life. So if that's something that ticks a few boxes, amazing. Like it's only going to make them better people.
And I guess that's another component that like it doesn't have to be a religion. It's amplifying the aspects of like face to face interaction, and even if it's just like this on a call, like this is more effective than a phone call, which is just a voice, or that's more effective than just a text message.
Yep.
Right.
What about a video message?
I mean, it's only one way though.
Yeah.
But it's the sharing of emotion. It's the sharing of because we communicate through text, but through language, but we also communicate through non-verbal communication. Yeah. So if I was just like slumped in like this and like not really paying attention, you wouldn't really be interacting anywhere near as much.
No, exactly.
You'd be like talking to a brick wall. But this kind of
wet bit of spaghetti.
Yeah, that's it. And so that's where, like, I mean, you had it in the Man That Can project, and it's something that I've implemented in Project Up, is like a weekly call where we all just get together and we just chat, like, about our goals and about where we're at. And then, that at least builds some kind of, like, just a, like, even if it's something small like that, you feel like you belong, you feel like you're a part of something, and you are also held accountable by the rest of the people in the group.
100%. But J-Boy, this time's flown, mate, and obviously we could talk about so much more. It's been incredible. I'm genuinely proud of the work that you're doing. For those who want to get in touch with you and find out more about what you're doing and I guess keep up with your content, etc., where should people go?
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me as well. But where to find me? Jesse.healthcoach on Instagram, and that's probably where I'm most active. But you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and all that kind of stuff as well. Jesse O'Sullivan. But yeah, I've got some huge plans for Project Up, and it's starting to all take place, which is really cool.
It's on the up.
It's on the up.
I'll link all of that below. But mate, thank you for your time and have an amazing weekend.
Legend. Thank you so much, man.